Hello, welcome. Today we are having a conversation with Dylan Brown. Dylan is the co-founder of Cadenza Consulting, which is an IT consulting and managed service provider. Thanks for being here today, Dylan.
Thanks for talking to me for a little while.
Absolutely. Well, starting off, can just tell us a little bit, like, what is an IT managed service provider and consulting? What do you do? What does that entail?
It's kind of funny because the word consulting sort of goes into endless regions, but we started out thinking that we would be helpful with businesses in organizing their technology strategy, and that then evolved into overall management of the technology strategy and services. So for us, instead of being a break fix call when you need something done, we provide an executive service. So we kind of take all of the umbrella of the technology sphere and bring that into one stable that we manage. So anything from software procurement, software vetting, and administration to the normal help desk things when things go wrong. And in addition to that, cybersecurity elements and even physical office needs, and just try to pull that all into one kind of centralized location for best organization.
Absolutely. Well, we have worked together with a number of mutual clients, particularly plastic surgeons who are starting their practices. You kind of are my go-to guy for their IT services. So let's just dive right in and start with the hardware and infrastructure part of that. I often have surgeons ask the question, like, why can't I just go to the Apple store, or why can't I just go to Best Buy and purchase the laptops I need and some tablets? So why is that not a good idea? What is it that you would do differently that's going to better set them up in their practice?
Hardware is really, really fun. Hardware is really exciting. I know when you're still kind of in that waiting for my office to open phase, like getting the company computers purchased, it seems like the first thing that you can do that's within your control. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny because in our world, there's sort of a pathway to success. Like there's a workflow that we want to follow that makes things easier in the future than they are now. When we set up a business, we set up certain policies and device procedures and automations even for whenever a computer is set up that not only makes it compliant in certain ways and does certain settings that we want, but it also streamlines the setup process so that it's a lot more efficient than kind of trying to remember what you did on the last computer you set up. Mm-hmm. I'll say, there's a difference between Windows and Apple products. Apple products are pretty much the same no matter where you can get it. There's a walled garden there, and I like that for a lot of reasons. But there's also some incompatibilities with certain vendors. So Windows is its own thing. The most common issue that we have to solve is when people buy their computers from a retail establishment and it has a Windows Home version, which is sort of on the face value is a computer, but it's missing certain features that check boxes on the compliance side and encryption and security, just things that we need for really organized practices.
Yeah. So in that scenario, they could end up paying more then, because later adding the business version of Windows, they've already paid for the home version that they can't use. Is that right? That they could potentially be spending more than they needed to?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're like me, like I think about time as dollars as well. So if you think about, okay, well, it's only $50, but you just spent 3 hours trying to reinstall Windows and do all this stuff, and then going back and looking through your notebook about how do I get this logged in and what's we've got a process and a procedure in place, and it's not that people can't do it. People can do whatever they want. They set their minds to it. But we have some workflows, and we're very good at it, and we like to be very economical with our time.
Yeah. Well, I think a great example is just before this, there's an email exchange with one of our mutual clients who's ready to hire a new employee and needs a new workstation. And you have a system you've established with the surgeon what all goes into a workstation and the software that goes on the device. And so it was a very quick, hey, Dylan, we need another setup. Got it. And you kind of have the kit ready to go. Is that right?
It's a kit. And though it might be different for each client, for us, it is standardized, and you don't get the sort of office envy, like, ooh, look at, they got that new computer. It's different than mine. It's better. It sounds so childish, but it's the reality.
It happens. That's for sure. So, okay. So we talked about computers that are going to be used daily. And then I hear you talk about infrastructure and things like firewalls. And I often joke, I know enough to be dangerous. I know you need one, but like, what's a firewall, and what are these other essential items, and why are they so important for a plastic surgeon?
I think we take it for granted a lot of times. But even the things that are in our homes, in our home offices. So firewalls they appear in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms. We have firewalls that are installed on our computers that are software firewalls, and we have a firewall. And what we're talking about is a firewall appliance. And you may have a wireless router in your own home. You may have something that your internet provider gave to you, and it has a firewall function on it. On the business level, we're talking about your digital front door for your physical location. So when you prop up your office and you get a internet service, you now have a digital window into the virtual world, and that firewall, even at the default settings, blocks inbound intruders, but in a more elaborate and thought through setup, it also can control the traffic inside of the network, preventing maybe some unwanted data movement, as we call it. Like case in point, smart devices. They're really cool. The little Echo Dots and Sonos and all the little things that have little microphones in them now. Yeah. We get to be mindful about what data they're transacting through a network that you may be sharing a network with point of sale devices, your EHR equipment. Who knows? We've had photo labs with photo servers as well. And if that data is on the same network, you can't assume that it's going to be secure. We have to put policies in place. So firewall does a lot of things. That's kind of the starting point.
Okay. So that is one of the essentials. Every medical practice, honestly, most businesses, but in this sense, every medical practice needs to have a firewall. It's the very first step in keeping your data secure. It's
a piece of the puzzle, and I probably can go down a very long rabbit hole about how that works, but we'll talk to that when we get to it, I'm sure.
Okay. Are there any other essential infrastructure items that we should be thinking of? With the firewall, with the whole router and everything all in one device, like at your home, when you think about an office, we do firewalls, we do wireless access points. Again, we're componentizing the system. Mm-hmm. The wireless access points, you might have 2 or 3 of them in a facility to make sure that you've got network access for all of your equipment. And good access points can host multiple Wi-Fi. So that's where you have your guest Wi-Fi, you have your business private Wi-Fi. You may even have what do I standardize now? The IoT, the Internet of Things Wi-Fi, even in a business, because it just, you can make a little bit easier password on those. You can something a little bit more memorable and something easier to share. And there's all the network layers start to intertwine really quickly, because we're talking about maybe network IP cameras. Anything that touches the network really revolves around that firewall. So it snowballs rapidly. Okay. All right. Well, it's enough that I know I need somebody like you who understands it and can put those components in place. So when a surgeon is planning to open a new practice, when is the right time to engage an IT professional?
I'm being selfish, but sooner the better. But the reality is the questions start popping up when the website becomes like when you really start to go public with your branding and you say, I want to buy a .com. That's really when the horses are out of the gate. We've got a .com. Now we got to make sure that now that you've publicized your .com, that it's going to be connected to an email server. That email server is set up in a way that's not going to get flagged as spam and all these different regulations that the email providers of the world have. We like to start at that end because it just makes it a lot smoother than migrating from one platform to another down the road. It's not impossible. Typically, it just makes a really great starting point to have everything just sort of progress and grow naturally versus having to shift course midway. The domain names and the website it's such an easy thing to do now. Anybody can go out and buy it. But it sometimes is really, really helpful just to stop and say, hey, we're not ready to sign a deal yet, but I just want to check what's the best way forward. And most people like me would be happy to just jump in and help. It's just better to ask some questions first to make sure you make the right decisions.
Yeah. So sooner than later to at least engage, have that initial conversation. You touched on buying a domain. So typically, I mean, if you're engaged formally with a surgeon, are you purchasing that domain on their behalf, or are they still purchasing it and then you're taking it on to manage it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's multifaceted. If this has happened, they go onto GoDaddy or whatever domain site, they buy it for 5 years. They just pay for it outright. Okay, well, we're not gonna rebuy that. But what we like to do is to take where it's called a name server. So it's where all those little records and little funny, this IP address goes to my website and this is my email. We like to take that and put it into a secured, what's called a DNS management system. We use a platform called Cloudflare, really common. A lot of applications use it. That way we've got sort of a manageable, secure environment that has some security features that send us alerts when there's some activity that happens. That can actually be set up for free. There's some features that, once we talk about getting a business going, you have to go to a business grade license. And there's some other features about, protecting your domain. You can move your registration. We can do it. We just kind of, with the domain by itself, we just kind of take it for whatever needs to be done.
Okay. Well, you mentioned buying a domain through GoDaddy, which is pretty common. Something else that we've seen is, when you're purchasing that, it's always offering you, do you also want to sign up for Microsoft or for Google G Suite while you're here? And you and I have had conversations before about why that is not a great idea to purchase it through a company like GoDaddy. Can you just talk on that for a few minutes?
I don't want to take up all day. It's quick and easy. And with all the things that come with being quick and easy, you probably will pay for it later. I don't necessarily have a problem with the product as it's sold. I don't like it as a provider because the way that GoDaddy resells the Microsoft email system is it's sort of locked in their environment. And it's like training wheels on a bicycle. That can be helpful for people that are trying to DIY. But when you try to really transition your company into a really good compliant state and try to put in policies and all these really fancy things that you can do with Microsoft, it's really restrictive. So we prefer we're a Microsoft vendor. So I always want to make sure we have complete control over whatever we're managing and we're responsible for. There are just things you can't do from a security perspective when you go that route.
Okay.
We've done the migration. It's possible to migrate off of one or the other. It's very, very frustrating, but we did one about a year and a half ago where we took someone's .com, moved it over to their own Microsoft, but had to copy emails and move files because you can't just spin it off. You literally have to migrate it to a new virtual tenant.
Okay. Well, it sounds painful enough that, like you said, we'd prefer to do it right the first time, or maybe not do it right or wrong, but do it the way that is long-term sustainable the first time around. So, but coming back to opening a new practice, I know another thing that you do get involved in is looking at the floor plans. And from an IT perspective, what are some of the things that you're evaluating when they're finalizing their floor plans that maybe the average, physician or consultant like myself might not even think about?
For the most part, the data connectivity, Wi-Fi is easy. Most people are running laptops and iPads right now anyways. that's really not that big of a deal. But desk phones are a little more challenging because we have to make sure we have a wired connection for desk phones. It's possible to do some with Wi-Fi, but I've not really had great experience with it in the long term. Things like TVs, we want to have TVs mounted. We want digital signage. We want security cameras. We want door locks. Those are all components that it's nice to just consolidate our thoughts onto one document, and you can just put little red marks on those floor plans and say, this, yes, this, no, does this make sense? Does this make sense? And then in the contracting stage, when we're talking about working with a builder, you say, oh, these are a couple of extra things that we're going to need that might cost a couple $100 now, but save headache in the future, because there's nothing worse than running an operating practice and having a couple of guys on ladders with the ceiling tiles out overhead.
Yes, pulling those cables. I've been involved in some renovations that involved new cabling, and it's not fun. It's definitely better and easier to do it before the drywall's up or before everything is finished. And
it's easier when you're not working, is always the case. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So once an office is set up, why would they need ongoing IT support? I know we mentioned, of course, there's your general help desk, right? I'm stuck. I can't do something. That's kind of, I think, what a lot of people think about with IT support. And, with Google and YouTube and ChatGPT, we can troubleshoot a lot on our own these days. But what else beyond that does a managed service provider do for them?
It's a slightly changed, it's a changed model. And we just talked about this earlier, and for years, if you worked with a third party, if something went wrong, you called them, they come fix it. It's sort of like the mechanic, maybe I have a service appointment, but for the most part, the only time the phone gets picked up is when something stops working. And the way that we take over, once an office is set up or once a business is set up, we begin monitoring all the machines. So the laptops, the iPads, the desktops, whatever is connected to the company's network, be it virtually or physically. And that includes the appliances, like those firewalls that we talked about, making sure that the firewalls are up to date, making sure that any logs and alerts, because they don't just sit static, things do happen. It's an active engagement. All of those alerts and logs are flowing into our tracking systems and our security systems so that we can make some tweaks and adjust some policies and adjust some defensive measures along the way. Part of that is also on the device side, is making sure that your devices are getting the updates that are required, because I think everyone knows that auto updates are the bane of our existence. There's nothing like being in the middle of a call and having the blue screen pop up that says restart right now. And we try to put procedures on the machine so that is managed on a timely basis, be it once a week. Like, hey, every Wednesday night, leave the computer on at 5:00 because we're going to restart everything and make sure all the updates have been run. We also have the ability to restrict certain updates if there are collisions with softwares like EHRs or whatever your platforms are. So those are things that we're trying to audit and preemptively prevent before it becomes a problem, so that we don't want the phone call that says, hey, this isn't working. That's our goal, is to not have phone calls. Our goal is to make sure business operates.
Yeah. Well, to think about that, if you're doing your job well and your software is doing what it should do and everything's being monitored, we don't actually even know you're doing it, right? It's very much behind the scenes. It's keeping us safe and secure and kind of out of sight, but that's okay. Functioning and focusing on our patients, which is where we really want to put our attention.
Yeah, again, it goes back to that time value thing. If your time costs whatever your cost assessment is for your hour of investment, we want to make sure that as close to 99.99% of that is in your business that is generating your revenue, and not messing around with machines that take away your attention from your customers, your patients, your team. So the goal is for us to not be on, logged in a remote to a screen all the time trying to troubleshoot Teams video calls or whatever it is that the issue is. We don't want to be wasting your time. We want you to just be able to show up, turn on, log in, and get to work.
Perfect. Well, a big part of of this that I know we've kind of touched on a little bit is the cybersecurity element, and that through this monitoring, you're keeping the infrastructure safe, you're keeping the EHR, all of the internal data in the practice, safely secured from external forces that might be trying to get their way into the network. So talk a little bit about cybersecurity practices that you recommend for small to medium-sized medical practices.
No, those are great things you mentioned. It's the best approach to cybersecurity, like any kind of security, is a layered approach. Have to have layers, not one, not two, but many. And because each layer is going to overlap slightly with another layer. And hopefully at the end of the day, you've got maybe two or three spots where you're overlapped and really, really secure. We talked about the firewall and the routing and having policies for inbound and outbound network access. And that protects a lot of things. If you are hosting your own EHR in your building on a server, that's really crucial because that data lives in your building and it's on your network. If you're doing cloud hosted EHR, it's a little bit of a different story, but we're still able to track activity inside of a business's network and prevent some of that. But now we're talking about two different spheres here. We've got your on-prem, the things that are actually physically within your touch, and then we've got these cloud elements that you can put a firewall in an office. You can load up all of your machines with an MDR or an EDR, which is our fancy word for antivirus. It's a managed endpoint control system, managed device protection. That covers this half. And all of these cloud accounts, Microsoft 365, Cloud EHR, all of those fall completely and beyond anything that has to do with your building. And this is a brain buster for most people that haven't really figured that one out. It is a cloud vector. It's a vector that is fairly new for most small businesses. It's something that we've really just been pushing hard for every business that we work with to go down this rabbit hole. But the like the Microsoft 365 account, pushing multi-factor authentication, because you can access your email from anywhere in the world. It doesn't, your office could, it could burn down. Your office could just go up in smoke. Your email still works. All that data still works because it's in the cloud. Conversely, your entire email system could be taken over and you show up for work and have no idea otherwise because it's just invisible. So Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, multi-factor authentication. When you log in, you get the little notification on your phone. Hey, it's really me. It's not somebody in some foreign country on a VPN or some sort of malicious actor trying to harvest all of my contacts. Layered on top of that, backing up your environments, backing up Microsoft 365, backing up Google Workspace, and backing up your servers. Backing up your physical appliances is one thing. You can install a backup server in offices. We have done this. Backing up the cloud is an entirely different thing. You want to be able to say, if your cloud accounts get hacked out and taken over and ransomed, like the system that we deploy, we just roll back to the most recent backup snapshot of the cloud. So we change all the passwords, reset all the multi-factor authentications, pretend like we're setting up everything kind of brand new, and snapshot it back to the cloud of yesterday. We'll lose a little bit of information, but we're back in business. So backing up cloud and the physical devices, big deal. And that gets into a little bit more detailed things like your file access. Who has access to what files? If your front desk associate has access to all of your accounting documents, is she a vulnerability? Does your one of your other staff members have access to HR documents? Or is he a vulnerability? Those kind of questions of asking who needs access to what. Not the whole team needs access to every single file. I'm sure business owners understand this better than anybody. You don't want everyone to have access to all of it. The term is called least privileged access. Don't just put everything in one folder and have access to one folder. Split it up, break it out. I know it seems really confusing, but when you break it up, you can manage who's got access to what much easier. And we already talked about the multi-factor, but also having those secure access policies where, like for us and our clients, if they start to get login requests from someone in Thailand or China or wherever that's not a US based IP address, because there's not much business that happens externally for not all of them, some clients do, but block, just on the face value. No way. And it's, I've had a phone call during a travel excursion to Portugal. Like, hey, I can't get my email to work. I was like, oh, I didn't know you were going to Portugal. So let me fix that for you real quick. We can allow an exception to EU. It's fine. Those kind of situations. It really works. It's highly effective.
Yes. Well, in a world where unfortunately cybercrime is so prevalent, I just feel like these are things we can't take lightly. And again, if it's set up correctly and doing its job, you kind of don't even notice it, or it just becomes part of your processes, right? Getting used to the multi-factor authentication. It might be annoying the occasional times you have to do it, but at the same time, it's ultimately keeping your data safe. And I think we hear these horror stories of practices maybe they've been around for a long time, they're all on-prem, maybe not having their backup and having a cyber attack and being down, like having their software, computer systems, EHR down for months. And I can't even imagine how detrimental that is to business.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I'll pull up our cybersecurity graphic about just to that point. This year, this 2024, and we're already looking at 2025, it's going to be the most profitable year for cybercrime that has ever been on record. I mean, it's not like hacking into a bank account. It's not even that anymore. It's the harvesting of these lists of data. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to get huge lists that seemingly more, there's not that much information. It's just names, emails, and phone number, but it's very valuable on at scale. And you can see in our graph that phishing attempts from cloud-based email attacks make up a huge volume of that. And the phishing, tries to get your login, tries to get a login to your server, tries to get a login to your AHR, and just take those lists, hijack all those lists, export them to a CSV, and you'll never see them again. And all of a sudden you're getting phone calls from your patients and customers going, hey, I just got a solicitation from somebody I've never heard of that works for you anymore. I didn't know that, what's going on? What's happening? They asked for my credit card. They asked for, they're going to give a gift card away if I subscribe. So it doesn't feel good, but you have to take steps.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't like to use the scare tactics, but this is just reality. I mean, we have to be prepared for it. So one of the other security risks that I commonly see, and Dylan, I see this in just about every practice.
Don't say it.
I'm going to say it. It's this common file. It's a Word doc or an Excel file, and it's all the passwords, all of these master accounts that everybody is sharing. We know, let's just say, that's not good. We shouldn't be doing that ever. I'm the first to say, not only should we not be sharing it in an insecure way, we shouldn't be sharing. Almost every one of these accounts, we can set up users and give permissions for each user. But beyond that, what is a better way to manage passwords?
One of the first things I ever did when I got out of college was break into an Excel spreadsheet that had a locked password on it. It was easy. It took me 5 minutes. It's just super easy. Use a password manager. They're so cheap. They're unbelievably cheap. Mm-hmm. We provide a system called Bitwarden. It's an encrypted password management system. You may have heard of other platforms out there. We've used LastPass. I think you guys use Keeper, and we've had some other clients using Keeper. OnePass. There are Dashlane. There's a dozen of them out there. I think for us, it might be like a $4 cost. For maybe not even that much. I think we end up spending $50 a year per one person for to have one person to have a password manager. It's pennies. Mm-hmm. And you can create as many collections of passwords. You can create the accounting collection that has all the bank account logins. You can create the vendor collection that has your FedEx number, FedEx login, and UPS, and all the different accounts that you share. And you can have access. Somebody can have access to this account. Somebody cannot have access to these, and you can disseminate exactly who has access. And then you can go into the audit log and see who copied the password on what day and time. And that's really, really valuable.
Yes. Oh, I like that. And the other side of that is when an employee leaves, it also gives you that reminder of all the passwords that need to be changed. Because even if it's in an encrypted keeper, we should change any shared password when an employee leaves who had access to it. Because most of these logins, have access to PHI, thinking of our patient financing accounts or manufacturer rebate programs. Those are two big ones that we typically share logins and practices, and it has patient data. So there's a big risk there, but we go into our password management tool and we can just go down the list, and it's not like, oh, I forgot about this one or that one. The prompts are right there in front of you.
Well, that's where these tools have gotten even more sophisticated. It doesn't work for 100% of all your portals and logins, but you can allow your users to have access to copy a password, but they'll never be able to save it or see it. So if that makes sense. If that makes that's like, okay, well, their lock just doesn't work anymore. They did, it's when you have someone leave, they didn't even have the password to begin with. They could copy this little string of illegible digits and paste it in, and it's not visible. There's tricks to that. It doesn't work 100% of the time, to your point, but it's a neat layer that you can add to protect yourself and your practice.
That's great. Dylan, what other technologies would you recommend for a plastic surgeon, particularly one who's starting a practice?
Again, on the cyber side of things, like the next most important thing that you've got to do is some sort of phishing training, phishing simulation. It seems really campy because the systems can be kind of goofy. The videos that seem like they just waste a little bit of time, but it's truthfully just about awareness, about understanding that there should be no trusted messages. You should always be immediately suspicious of anything coming in from out the door, just like you would be suspicious of strangers. It's the same concept. So some sort of phishing training.
There's the classic phishing email that unfortunately so many people I know and practices have fallen for, where it's, "Hi, Dylan, it's Dr. Amy. I'm in the OR right now, so I can't call you, but can you go buy 3 gift cards?" And to some of us, I'm like, what? That's the strangest thing. I've never do it. And multiple people who I think would see through that have fallen through and fallen for it, and actually gone out to buy gift cards or almost did. So is that an example of like the phishing training? That's one
classic
of the test
social engineering. Yeah, that one's not even considered phishing, I don't believe. Wow. It's a social engineering that's designed to prey off of new hires. The second that job status changes on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever, you're scraped. The web has been scraped, and you're getting text messages if your phone number's been published anywhere. It's like, "Hey, I'm your new boss," because I know your boss's name off of a robot from the internet. And it's not like somebody's actively attacking you. It's just these systems that are just designed so well to harass you and trick you. And because you might be someone who's worked for you for 3 days and says, "I don't want to let the boss down." Yeah. It's easy to prey on those emotions. It's insane.
So we need to train our staff to be aware of those things. What other technologies?
Aside from those, we've kind of hit the nail on the head with all these topics. Technology wise, aside from those practical, think about your phone system. Think about the way you communicate with your employees, not even your employees, your clients. As part of that, like phishing training, you're receiving emails, but we're also talking about what do your mail and what do your phone numbers look like when you're sending mass texts and mass emails outbound. Are they cleaned up? Do they look good? Do they pass phishing checks? Do they not meet the spam criteria? And does it help overall your image? Because there's nothing worse than a beautiful practice. It's a great office that just has great employees and amazing demeanor and reviews, and sends out these emails that have like all these broken links and all this spammy stuff, and immediately goes into everyone's junk folder. That's a lot of times your first look at some of your newest customers, and you don't want that to be negative. So there's a lot of things that go into it, but beyond just the viewable emails, there's making sure your domains look good, making sure your email systems are connected and not showing up in people's junk folders. So think about those tools and make sure they integrate with your EHR correctly and securely. That's getting those names and lists is a big deal.
Yeah, that's huge. And I was just having a conversation yesterday with a facial plastic surgeon who you and I both work with. And that was one of the things she mentioned she'd been working with you on, that the marketing emails that she put so much time into weren't making it to actual inboxes. And so, just navigating that and troubleshooting it, and, the filters out there are doing their job on one level, but, we want to send it in a way that it's not spam. And so For the average,
not even aesthetics related. Another client we had that was sending out email blasts, and they're like, they said, how do we make people not block our emails? Like, well, you can't. That once it has left your gate, it is out of your control. So you do everything you can to make it look good. And then after that, it's a reputation basis.
yeah. But I would say the average user like myself and most surgeons, we don't even know where to start as to making it look good before it leaves. So again, having somebody like you that we can call and say, Dylan, help! Why is this all getting marked as spam or even blocked? Not even making it to the spam folder. So,
and we don't even have to be the experts, but it's really nice to just get another opinion. Like if I can call on one of our marketing experts to get an idea of like, hey, why would this not work? Just sometimes it just helps get another opinion.
Absolutely. Well, Dylan, you and I could talk all day, and sometimes we do on all of these topics. But we'll wrap it up here. And I always just like to ask at the end, if you had just one piece of advice to give to a plastic surgeon who's starting a new practice, what would that be?
It's so hard to nail it down to just one, but I think collectively, our job is to think objectively. And just as a business owner to another business owner, like think objectively about your needs. I know there's so many things that run around in your head, and there's so many things that feel like they're clear and present, and you need to handle this right now. But when you think about your overall objective of having a successful business with loyal employees that are happy to show up and hopefully good profit at the end of the day and all the bills paid, you really have to kind of work backwards from that. And I'll just use this example of almost every single client we've worked with. We've gone through really important topics like firewalls and security and cybersecurity and backup. And we kind of glaze over those in a lot of ways. And then we'll spend 3 hours talking about the size of the TVs. And I'll humor that. But I also will provide context. It's like this, I know this is really important for your presence and your appearance, but objectively, we do have to make a decision and move on because this is not doesn't pass the sniff test of being necessary and productive. So be very cautious about how you use your time in that way.
Yes. Well, I think that's great advice. And particularly at a time where they're making hundreds and hundreds of decisions, having your objectivity to keep them focused on what really matters and what's most important. So it's why Absolutely. I love working with you. It's why, again, you're my go-to for all our new practices. So really, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being with us today.
Well, thank you. It's great to have a little bit of your time. It's just awesome to talk to somebody about this stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I will provide links to Dylan and Cadenza Consulting in the show notes, so you can reach out. Dylan is happy to get on a call with you and have a similar conversation, but really to discuss all of your individual practice needs. Thanks a lot.